Hi everybody, welcome back. I wanted to make today for you a really special and easy treat that maybe you could try at home. We are fast approaching Valentine's Day, and this is a 3-ingredient chocolate truffles recipe. So, as I said, just 3 ingredients. What you'll need today to make this delicious recipe: 6 ounces of chocolate chips. Now I'm using the Ghirardelli 60% cacao, which is more of a bittersweet chocolate, but if you have Nestle's morsels or if you like milk chocolate chips, those would work just as well with this recipe. I think you could probably even experiment with white chocolate chips as well. You're gonna need 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter. Now, a lot of times I'll get questions, can I use salted or not? In this recipe, the salted butter might actually lend itself to giving a little bit of a different flavor profile to it because we get that sweet and that salty together. And then last ingredients is going to be 1/4 cup of heavy whipping cream. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to scald my heavy cream in this small saucepan. Scalding is not the same as boiling. That's the reason why they have a different name. Boiling is when we bring something to 212 degrees and it has a rapid boil or a lot of bubbles breaking the surface. We don't want to see that happen today. We want to scald the heavy cream, which means bringing it just in under boiling, about 180 degrees. So I'm going to start there. I have this on medium-high heat. It should take about 3 to 4 minutes for it to scald. So about 3 minutes has elapsed and the cream has scalded. You'll start to see that the cream will just begin to rise to the surface. It's not fully boiling, it runs about 180 degrees, which is ideal for the chocolate because now we're going to pour the hot cream over the chips and we're going to melt down the chocolate. Since there's only about 1/4 cup in here, be sure to get every last little bit out of your container. And then you simply can stir it together until the chips are melted. And there is a choice. I pulled out a wire whisk. Sometimes I want this and sometimes I just go with a spatula. It depends on how well the chips are melting. Sometimes if it's a little cooler in my kitchen, my chips are a little bit cooler and I need to put a little more elbow grease into it, and the wire whisk can be helpful. Additionally, if you find by the time you've mixed your heavy cream all the way in that the chips themselves have not fully melted, you could give it about 20 to 25 seconds in the microwave just to make sure the rest of that melting has occurred. We won't want to have any chunks of chocolate in it. We want it to be fully smooth and melted so that this way we're going to have that smooth, silky feeling when we eat our chocolate truffles. All right, as you can see, the chocolate chips have completely melted down and now have a nice, smooth, glossy consistency, very fudgy-like. It's a thickened mixture, almost like the consistency of a chocolate pudding. At this point, I need to cool it off just a little bit before I mix in my butter. So I'm gonna put the mixture into the refrigerator for about 10 minutes. During that 10-minute time, I want to stir it probably about 3 times just to make sure that it's cooling off evenly. I don't want to have hard pieces around the outside and warm pieces in the center. So I just removed my chocolate from the refrigerator. It's been in there about 10 minutes and I did at 3 different times go in and stir it, just simply so that I could cool it down a bit. I want to add my butter to it, but I don't want my butter to melt. I want my butter to incorporate as a solid, right? So that it's going to have that nice silky smooth finish on it as I'm tasting my truffles. So truffles are made with this chocolate filling, which is known as ganache. Ganache is a mixture of course chocolate and heavy cream. This ganache can also be used as a decorative coating to the outside of cakes and used to flavor buttercreams and make other types of candies. But they're most popularly used in chocolate truffles. And of course, Valentine's Day is when people really love to have some chocolates and enjoy with their sweetheart. So I'm gonna finish them off now, and it's gonna be super simple to do. I have my 2 tablespoons of butter, which I have had sitting out, and it's soft at room temperature. Today's January in West Virginia, so internal temperature in my house is probably about 70 degrees. And I just put this out earlier today when I was getting ready to do, you know, my morning tidying around the house and errands, that sort of thing. I don't want to put it in one whole piece. I'm going to cut it down into some smaller pieces and add it into the chocolate. Now at this point, you could also add some flavoring to your ganache filling. I'm going to leave mine plain because I wanted to show a family-friendly way of preparing this. That being said, if you like to have the taste of brandy or perhaps rum, that might be a good time for you to add a little something to this. You wouldn't want to add too much because you don't want to thin it out. You could probably add about 2 teaspoons of your favorite brandy or rum at this point, or alternatively, a half a teaspoon of your favorite flavored extract, perhaps almond, raspberry, orange, to give it a little extra kick. I'm gonna go ahead at this point and I'm going to whip these together with my hand mixer. You could do it by hand using a hand whisk, but I'm gonna go ahead and do it the easy way. Not only do I want to incorporate the butter in so that I don't see any more butter chunks, I want to aerate the ganache a little bit so that it's going to lighten slightly in color, and adding that addition of air is going to help to cool off the ganache a little bit further for our next step, which is piping. Whipping has created a difference with our ganache filling to this point where now it's almost like a chocolate buttercream consistency. In fact, I would grab a couple chocolate cupcakes and put this on there any day of the week. But of course, we're going to use this for our candy centers today. I've simply grabbed a baking sheet and I've lined it with parchment paper. Now, if you don't have parchment paper at your house, aluminum foil, wax paper will be fine. Plastic wrap, just something to put down that's going to make it easier for you to get the truffles off of the tray, because we are going to refrigerate them, and of course the chocolate's a little soft, and if it sits directly on the tray you may have to peel them off. So paper or foil or something of that sort will make that job easier for you. Now, I could go ahead and use a pastry bag because I do keep those on hand, but I wanted to use a just regular old-fashioned Ziploc baggie today to show you don't really need any fancy tools to do this. In fact, you don't even need anything electric. Despite the fact that I used my hand mixer, you really could mix this by hand. So this is something that's easy to do. You don't need specialized equipment. It's fairly inexpensive and user-friendly for families. So I'm gonna put my whipped ganache into my Ziploc baggie. Now this doesn't make a very large amount of truffles. It can be probably about 2 dozen if you do small ones. If you like to have one that's a little bit bigger, it's probably going to be more like 18 pieces. It's really going to depend on the size of the dollops that you pipe out is how many you will yield. All right, so I'm going to zip it up. Let out my air, zip it up. And I want to cut just a corner off the end, not too big, probably about 1/2 inch. All right, I'm going to get rid of that little piece so it doesn't get caught in anything that anyone is eating. And I'm going to pipe them. Simply going to hold it from like the middle section of the bag, and I'm going to pipe down dollops. Now you want them to look a little bit like Hershey's Kisses, little mountains. It's okay if they have a little point or peak to them, and you'll say, well, they're not round. Well, they're gonna be round like a traditional truffle. We have to shape them, so we're going to roll them. I'm gonna pipe them out, and then they're going to go into the refrigerator. And when they come out, I'm gonna roll them, and then we're going to roll them in their decorative coatings. All right, so I've piped all 18 of my truffle centers. At this point, I want to put them in the refrigerator. They're going to be in there for about 10 minutes. I want them to get cold. Not cold like hard like a rock cold, but cold enough that when I roll them with my hands, they're not going to melt too much. So my ganache truffle centers have been in the refrigerator about 10 minutes, and you'll see that they firm up really quickly in that process. They're still soft a little bit in the center, which is good because I don't want them to be too hard because it's gonna make it harder to roll them and I'm gonna have to apply a lot more pressure. And also I want them to be a little bit melty on the outside because I'm gonna dip them in a different variety of coatings. So I have some just regular chocolate sprinkles. You can use any color or variety that you like. Specifically because we're getting so close to Valentine's Day, a nice Valentine mix might look nice. Regular cocoa powder, and then also a little bit of powdered sugar. And really, the sky's the limit on being creative with the coatings that you put on your chocolate truffles. You could also melt coating chocolate and dip the centers in and have a dipped truffle as well. There's just so many different varieties you could use, but I decided to go with these because these were simply just some things I had around my kitchen. Another great idea might be some toasted coconut or some finely chopped nuts. You really can use whatever you have, whatever you like. Right? So I'm simply going to take the pieces, and you can see how easily they come off of the tray when you have lined the paper, lined with some type of paper. And then you're going to roll them. Now you can do this with your bare hand. I have washed my hands obviously before I started doing this, but you can also use food handlers gloves. They sell them at my local Walmart, just regular blue nitrile, so that if I wanted to do it with gloves I could. And then I'm simply going to do them into the different coatings. So I have 18 pieces. I'm going to do 6 each of the 3 different styles. All right, and as soon as I'm done, I'm going to set them over onto the tray. And I will show you how I do each. Let's go with powdered sugar. And then I'll show you also one. You can see you're going to get messy in this. This is a great job to do with your little kids because they're going to get to play with chocolate. Although I have to say I don't mind playing with chocolate either. And then one which is a little more traditional into the cocoa powder. That lends itself to more of that bittersweet. So I have the 3 styles here, and I'm going to go ahead and finish them off, and I'll be back with you to show you how I'm going to try them up. Okay, I'm not gonna lie to you, that was messy, but it was a fun mess. And for your little ones at home, they get to lick their fingers when they're done. I, however, did not lick my fingers. Once I finished rolling all of my chocolate truffles, I went ahead and washed my hands. You can see I have the 3 styles, but again, I encourage you to use your creativity and do them in any fun and imaginative way you can possibly make them. I have the chocolate sprinkles, sometimes called jimmies. I have the powdered sugar and the cocoa powder. So these are very simple and inexpensive. To make these treats, I got 18 pieces, so a dozen and a half. I probably spent about $4 in total, not including some of the ingredients that I already had kind of in my pantry. And then the last thing I'm going to do is present them. And since I make mini muffins at home, I always have some little mini muffin liners around. And so these actually look like little candy liners. And so I'm actually going to even take the extra step of putting them into these little paper cups for display. So it's going to look so rich and expensive and so super high-end and fancy, but really I made these for just a few dollars in my kitchen, and it's the sort of thing that fancy chocolatiers get big bucks for. So there you have it. 3 ingredient chocolate truffles. So there you have it, 3 ingredient decadent chocolate truffles. Be sure to subscribe and let me know, subscribers, what you'd like to see next. Thanks.